Three, two, one, live. Only it doesn't say 3, 2, 1, does it? It just says you're live. So I'm live. Today we're going to talk about, can you really afford van life? That's a question that is asked of me so many times. And I know it's something that goes through everyone's head. How can I really afford this? I can barely make rent now, or I can barely make my car payment now. So how could I possibly afford to live in a van? Well, there are a lot of reasons and things that you can consider when you want to move into a van that maybe you're not thinking about right now. Of course, you have all of the things like you don't have rent or a mortgage anymore, assuming you're going to go full time and you're not going to keep anything. So you're not going to have rent, mortgage, you're not going to have property taxes, HOAs, house maintenance, utility bills. You're not going to have any of that stuff anymore. So if you just make a list of all those things and go scratch them all out like you don't have those anymore, you've already saved a whole lot of money. Something that people don't really consider, and we've talked about this in my Dream to Drive series, is that typically the thing that costs you the most are the bills that you bring with you, not the bills that you have from living in a van. For instance, let's say, of course, let's say you have a house, you sell the house and you pay off the house, so you don't have that anymore. But let's say you have a car. Okay, so you're going to sell your car because you're going to live in a van. Now, if you're going to live in your car instead of in a van, then you may still have a payment on that. So you have to consider that you're bringing that payment with you. And there are some other ones too. So think about this. No matter where you live, if you live in a van, you live in a house or apartment, you're probably going to have health insurance. So that's going to be something that you bring with you into your van, and it's an expense. And I think some people consider, when they think about this, they ask me, well, how much does it cost you a month to live in a van? Well, the answer to that is, what did I bring with me, and what are actually van expenses? So you have health insurance, let's say. What about your phone? You're going to bring your phone with you, I assume. And so that expense is going to follow you into your van. What about things like a Netflix subscription that you may have at your house? Are you going to bring that with you? There are a lot of other kinds of subscriptions too that you may be bringing. I have like Apple Care on one of my phones, those kind of things. So that's not a van expense. That's something that I brought with me. What about food? That's not a van expense. That's something that I brought with me. I had it in the house, I had it in my van. So I think it's important for you to realize that not all of your expenses that you're going to have when you move into a van or your car or a travel trailer or whatever you want to move into is actually a van expense. Even if you think about things like gas, you probably use gas in your car, even if it's just to drive around town or maybe you commute to work. So in order to actually make that an even level number that you can consider, is you have to figure out how much money you're spending on gas right now. And then if you are going to spend more on gas in a van, then yes, that would be a van expense. What about tires, oil changes, those kind of things that people will say, well, you have your maintenance on your van, so that's a van expense. Well, you're getting rid of this expense over here to have this expense over here. So that one is, you bring it with you is what you do. It may be kind of a different number, but that's something that you can actually figure out and see what the number is. What else? What else are you bringing with you? Dog food. I have to bring my dog food with me. What about things like going to the dentist or eyeglasses, which I got to go do that today? um, haircuts, which I should be doing that. But those are things, what things are hidden, things that don't cost as much when you live in a van. But think about all the things that you have right now that you're gonna still have when you move into onto the road. So those are not considered van expenses. So in order to be fair, you have to make a list of those. And so when you ask somebody how much it costs to live in a van, and then just ask them, how much does it cost for you to live in the van, not counting the expenses you brought with you? That's the only fair way to ask that question. So what are your van expenses going to be? That is, I can't answer that question in this video because there are so many factors that go into it. There are so many different little things, big things. For instance, just if you buy new, you might need to get financing. That would be a payment. That would be a van expense. Even if you buy used, you might need to get some financing for that. So that would be an expense, a van expense. Now, if you don't have either of those things, then obviously you don't have that van expense. What about insurance? You're going to need insurance on your van. So that is going to be a van expense, but it's going to depend on if you buy new or used. Insurance on a new van is less than on a used van. What about your driving record? If you've had a few accidents and a few DUIs, then that number can change a lot. What about licensing your van? That is a van expense. Of course, you had licensing on your car over there, but you got rid of that. So you traded it for the one on your van, right? Knocking things over here. Sorry about that. So that's a van expense. Again, what is going on over here? I don't know. Can you hear somebody's mowing the lawn out here? Noise pollution driving me crazy this morning. A van expense, like for instance, propane. I have propane in my van. It be for my heat and for my gas stove. Somebody else may have a van that has no propane. You may have a diesel heater and an induction stove. So you wouldn't have propane. What about if you have a black tank, for instance? I do, a black tank and a gray tank, so I have to dump. And I tell you what, I've been up in the north part of the United States in the Dakotas and over to Montana and Utah and all the way down through. And there are so many free dump stations. I haven't had to pay to dump since I left Maine. And that was a few months ago. Now I'm in Texas and I will have to pay here because Texas is really weird. Thank you for the like. Thank you for that. What else? Van expenses. What else? Van expenses that you want to bring in with you. Okay, so I got maintenance on my van. I have to change the oil and tires and brakes and those kind of things. You did that when you lived in your house, so it's no different. People always say things like, what if it breaks down? Maintenance. I'm scared of that because it's going to be so big. Well, what if you live in a house and your AC goes out? Or you need a new roof? You can't expect to say that you don't have any expenses now. So van life is just going to be your new expenses for you. You have to consider the trade-off. There's a lot of ways that you can also save money by living in a van that you didn't maybe know about when you lived at home. And one of them is very easily is that you don't go out to eat as much because you're cooking your meals at home, which is, wherever you happen to be camping. And because, you can't get fast delivery, what is that, DoorDash, whatever it is, to bring you food out in the woods somewhere or even to a campground. So you save money by not eating out all the time. What about entertainment? instead of going to places and going out Friday night, Saturday night, or whatever to go to a movie or whatever. Well, now you live in your van and you can just go outside and look at the scenery. So you save money doing that as well. And there are a lot of ways to save money. Like, for instance, as I talked about, haircuts. Yeah, you don't have to go get a pedicure every week, because there's not going to be anybody who does pedicures out in the boonies. And maybe if you are a nail tech, you could make that as a creative way to make money on the road. So there are a lot of creative ways to add to your income that are not hard to do. And like one of the ones that I've been doing recently, because it's fun, is Facebook Marketplace. Let me tell you how that works. I go to thrift stores. I go to yard sales. You can really get better deals at yard sales. I go to yard sales and I pick up the things that I think I might be able to sell on Facebook Marketplace. I post them. I publish them on Facebook Marketplace wherever I am, and then when I leave there, I put it on vacation mode, and so they're all not listed anymore. And then when I go to the next place, I just change the location. So that's something I do all across the United States. Few bucks here, few